Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. President Biden is pissed with Israel's latest genocidal barbaric act, killing 7 aid workers with legendary chef José Andrés' food aid organization. And Morning Joe, MSNBC, 6 months later, is suddenly scolding Israel and saying enough of Israel's genocide. Let's start with Chef José Andrés basically saying what is pretty obvious, that this was not an accident for Israel to bomb with American weapons, by the way, his aid workers trying to deliver desperately needed aid into Gaza.
Target systematically, car by car.
Celebrity chef José Andrés told Reuters in an emotional interview on Wednesday that the Israeli airstrike that killed 7 of his World Central Kitchen aid workers in Gaza had been deliberately targeted, and he rejected Israeli and U.S. assertions that it was a mistake.
This was not just a bad luck situation where, we dropped the bomb in the wrong place, or no, this was over 1.5, 1.8 kilometers with a very defined humanitarian convoy that had signs in the top, in the roof, a very colorful logo that we are obviously very proud of, but that's very clear who we are and what we do.
Andrés said his charity group had clear communication with the Israeli military, which he said was aware of the convoy's whereabouts, and he called for investigations by the U.S. government and the home countries of every aid worker that was killed in the attack.
If we were targeted this way, I need to understand that this was not vicious. I need to understand that this was not by somebody that is above law and order.
Well, sorry to tell you, Chef, but investigation is not going to do much. This is all theater because Israel has had a lot of accidents over the last 6 months, killing children, killing your aid workers, and killing their own hostages. And the investigations never seem to find much. Isn't that interesting? But interestingly, Morning Joe, they didn't seem to say enough. Interestingly, Morning Joe and their liberal sensibilities, they now, in response to this accident, are screaming enough. Let's listen to their suddenly scolding, angry response to Israel's assassination of aid workers.
Meanwhile, President Biden says he was outraged and heartbroken by an Israeli strike that killed 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers in Gaza. In a statement, Biden wrote, "This conflict has been one of the worst in recent memory in terms of how many aid workers have been killed. This is a major reason why distributing humanitarian aid in Gaza has been so difficult, because Israel has not done enough to protect aid workers trying to deliver desperately needed help to civilians." He added, "Incidents like yesterday's simply should not happen. Israel has also not done enough to protect civilians." Strong words. The strike killed 7 humanitarian workers on Monday, including a dual U.S. citizen. More than 200 aid workers have been killed in the war so far, according to the White House. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu posted on social media on Tuesday that Israel deeply regrets the tragic incident and that we will do everything in our power to ensure that such tragedies do not occur in the future. I got to tell you, I'm glad the president spoke out strongly, but this has got to stop.
What really does, and Richard, it just continues, and there's a very powerful op-ed dropped in the New York Times last night by Chef José Andrés, talking about how they had coordinated their movements with IDF. They had taken all precautions that needed to be taken.
So let me get this straight. It wasn't enough to Joe and Mika when Israel literally dropped bombs on starving Palestinians as they rushed a food truck known as the Flower Massacre, killing, I believe, over 100 innocent Palestinians. That wasn't enough. It wasn't time to scold then. It wasn't enough when Israel bombed refugee camps, killing hundreds. It wasn't enough then. Suddenly, they're aghast, and it's enough when their cosmopolitan, limousine liberal sensibilities are hurt and harmed because everybody in Manhattan and everybody in their social circle knows Chef José Andrés. You killed his aid workers from his humanitarian food network, World Central Kitchen, which, by the way, is a tragedy. I'm not taking anything away from those 7 lost lives and the horror their families are going through. Why is their reaction so visceral now and enough? This has to stop when it's the aid workers. But we haven't heard this when it's been Palestinians. We haven't heard enough at the images of Palestinian children down to their bones. They've lost so much weight from famine, or Palestinian children with legs blown off or burns all over their face. It's not enough then for the crew of Morning Joe, for the elitist millionaire anchors at MSNBC, NBC, CNN. It's just a tragedy. You've got to be kidding me. At what point does your pea brain status quo corporatism evaporate and you just see right versus wrong? It's been reported that Joe Scarbo's on the phone with Biden constantly. Did you not tell him enough at all the things I just listed? But it's enough now when it's somebody in your social circle or people linked to a celebrity chef who liberals like. I want to show this other clip from a more outraged MSNBC guest.
This has been bubbling up from behind the scenes for a while. President Biden, frankly, is furious at Prime Minister Netanyahu. But yet still his administration has not conditioned weapons sales, conditioned aid. They haven't done it yet. Now, maybe this is the moment that comes. This also happens just, we think, a week or two perhaps before this Rafah offensive, which really could be a flashpoint.
Okay, I'm so sick of hearing how upset President Biden is. The buck stops with him. If he wants to stop arms sales, if he wants to stop the bombs that are indiscriminately killing civilians, he can. He has the power. We don't need him going and his aides going to reporters and talking all background about how upset they are. What happened yesterday is still going to happen. At Mika's conference, the head of the Palestinian Red Crescent spoke, and she was incredibly moving. This was in Abu Dhabi. And she spoke about the difficulty of aid getting in the country, period, from the north or south. And she described a process that was kind of like the TSA changing the rules every single day, going through airport security. Until those checkpoints are working and aid is going through, we don't need to be giving any more arms sale or money. It needs to stop. It needs to be conditional. It's ridiculous that it's going on unchecked and unfettered, and we're sitting around and talking how upset we are while we hemorrhage billions of dollars.
And by the way, that's somebody who worked for George Bush saying, we need to stop giving them money. Listen, I want the hostages released. I have repeatedly condemned what Hamas did on October 7th, but that's long gone. This is beyond a genocide at this point, and we are funding it. And I don't care how pissed Biden is. Actions speak louder than words. He can't be that pissed because in the same breath that he's saying how, quote unquote, pissed he is, the United States just sent Israel more weapons, more bombs to do the exact same thing. U.S. signs off on more bombs, warplanes for Israel. Despite a widening rift with the Israeli government, the Biden administration continues to authorize the transfer of 2,000-pound bombs and other weapons. The new arms package includes more than 1,800 MK-84 2,000-pound bombs and 500 MK-82 500-pound bombs, according to the Pentagon. Granted, this came before they accidentally killed 7 food aid workers with Chef Andres's aid organization. But does it really matter? They were still giving these weapons after one genocidal act after another, after another, after another. I want to read something that is really, really jarring. It's from 972 magazine, who's done really impressive investigative reporting exposing this genocide. Headline: Lavender, the AI machine directing Israel's bombing spree in Gaza. In 2021, a book titled The Human Machine Team: How to Create Synergy Between Human and Artificial Intelligence That Will Revolutionize Our World was released in English under the pen name Brigadier General YS. In it, the author, a man who we confirm to be the current commander of the elite Israeli intelligence unit 8200, makes the case for designing a special machine that could rapidly process massive amounts of data to generate thousands of potential targets for military strikes in the heat of war. Such technology, he writes, would resolve what he described as, quote, a human bottleneck for both locating the new targets and decision-making to approve the targets. Such machines, it turns out, actually exist. A new investigation by 972 magazine and Local Call reveals that the Israeli army has developed an artificial intelligence-based program known as Lavender, unveiled here for the first time. According to 6 Israeli intelligence officers who have served in the army during the current war on the Gaza Strip and had firsthand involvement with the use of AI to generate targets for assassination, Lavender has played a central role in the unprecedented bombing of Palestinians, especially during the early stages of the war. In fact, according to sources, its influence on the military operations was such that they essentially treated the outposts of the AI machine as if it were a human decision. In an unprecedented move, according to 2 sources, the army also decided during the first weeks of the war that for every junior Hamas operative that Lavender marked, it was permissible to kill up to 15 or 20 civilians. In the past, the military did not authorize any collateral damage during assassinations of low-ranking militants. The source added that in the event that the target was a senior Hamas official with the rank of a battalion or brigade commander, the army on several occasions authorized the killing of more than 100 civilians in the assassination of a single commander. Quote, you don't know exactly how many you killed and who you killed, an intelligence source told Local Call for a previous investigation published in January. Quote, only when it's senior Hamas operatives do you follow the BDA procedure. In the rest of the cases, you don't care. You get a report from the Air Force about whether the building was blown up, and that's it. You have no idea how much collateral damage there was. You immediately move on to the next target. The emphasis was to create as many targets as possible. Folks, I don't believe the term collective punishment is appropriate anymore. This is collective genocide. I don't care what the rank of a Hamas official is. To just say, hey, if it's senior enough and who decides what makes one senior, kill 100. Oh, 150 there? Kill 150. 200? And we've seen that. We've seen instances where 100 are killed, 150. Not to mention the wounded, people maimed, missing wounds. Biden's pissed about this. So pissed, he just sent billions more in 2,000-pound bombs. That even the American military, war hawks, say they would not use 2,000-pound bombs. At this point, I am with you. Another Trump presidency would be a disaster. If Biden loses the presidency, this will be why, and he will have deserved it. I'm not a religious person, but I think back to all those that ignored the Holocaust, including the United States for many years. All those who ignored the evil, just total disregard and hatred and assassination and genocide of Jewish people. Might not be the same numbers, but it's the same intent. You have no conscience. You have no conscience if you could say, yeah, but they're defending themselves. This is not defense. This is a genocide.